Hey everyone, welcome you all. So in the today's video, let us try to understand a thread safe concept, how we can use it in our automation. So basically what is a thread safe and how we can achieve this. So normally what happens is when you do parallel testing, let's say I have a multiple tests, let's say test 1, test 2 and test 3. So whenever you run all the tests parallelly, right? Suppose if these tests are accessing the same instance, same object, for example, let's say I have a driver instance and this driver instance is shared across multiple tests. So in that particular case, what happens when you execute these three tests parallelly? So each test will share the same driver instance, right? So suppose test 1 is using this driver instance. Parallelly, test 2 is also trying to get this same driver instance. And parallelly again, test 3 also trying to get the same driver instance. So in this particular context, what will happen? There will be overlapping problem. Suppose some test is already using this driver, some other test should wait for this particular driver, the process should be completed. So here there are multiple tests we are running parallel means multiple threads are running and each thread is trying to access the same driver instance. So in this particular context, your parallel test will not be stable. Sometimes your parallel test definitely will fail because of this reason. So to overcome this reason, so we use some concept of thread safety concept. Thread safety is nothing but what? Suppose one test or one thread is using this driver instance, and once it is complete, then only another one will try to access it. So until this process is complete by thread one, so another thread cannot access the same driver instance. So this process is basically called as a thread safe concept. So we can achieve this thread safe concept using ThreadLocal class. So there is a separate class is available, ThreadLocal. So using that, we can achieve this. So let's see the implementation part. So if I don't use ThreadLocal or thread safety, what is the problem and how we can overcome that problem in the parallel testing? We'll see practical demonstration. So for that, what I'm going to do is, so let's create a project. So you already have one project, new Maven project, which you already created. So inside this, I'm going to directly create a new package. I say new package and I'll name it as thread safety concept. And just say finish. Now I have created a new package. So let us have some tests in this particular thread safety concept. So what I'll do is I will create a new class. I'll name it as a driver test 1. And in this, I will try to create two different tests. Okay, I'll create a WebDriver instance, a common shareable, and then along with two different instances I'm trying to create. So if I look at here, I just created this WebDriver as a class variable, is an instance variable. Now the same WebDriver I'm trying to access in every test. You can see here I'm initiating the Chrome driver, import this. Also here initiating the Edge driver. So this is simple test I have created in TestNG style and import this test annotation. So now this is my test 1 and this is my test 2 and both are accessing the same driver instance. So I'm just simply creating the Chrome driver instance and launching the URL and capturing the title and quit from the browser instance. Same thing, second test 2. Here I'm launching my Edge browser, launching another URL and capturing the title and then quitting from the browser. So they're simple two tests I have created here. And if I look at this, both the tests are using the same driver instance, which is created as an instance variable or instance object at the class level. Okay. So when execute this serially, we don't have any problem because in serial execution, tests will be executed in sequentially, one after another. So let me execute this. So once you executed this test, so you can look at here, this is my first browser is launched, closed, and now another browser is launched and closed. And finally, both are executed passed. So the title of the first page is Google, title of the second page is Bing. Both are passed perfectly fine. So even if you run through XML, it will work perfectly fine. So let me create an XML for this. So in the same package, I'm trying to create a new XML, testng.xml. I say testng.xml. So in the testng.xml, I'm trying to add all this stuff. So I just want to execute them. So I can say suit tag. And for now, I'm just removing this parallel part. I'm just trying to execute sequentially and test. And here, my package name is thread safety concept, right? So I can say thread safety concept dot driver test one. So thread safety concept is my package name, and inside this driver test one is my test, and which contains the two test methods. This is one test method. This is another test method. Okay. So now let us try to execute this, and basically this will also execute sequentially, so we don't have any problem with that. So when I execute this, it is launched my Chrome browser, closed, and then Edge browser, and is also closed. So both tests are got passed, my test one, my test two. So because we have done sequential execution, so we don't have any problem, because one after another it will execute. Because I have only one single test, so which contains a multiple test methods, also have included two test methods. Okay. Now let us try to execute them parallelly. Okay, so my test one, my test two, there are two test methods are there. So I'm just trying to execute them parallelly so that both the test methods are accessing the same driver instance. Okay, so how we can make it parallel? So we need to first add thread count. So we need to at the suit level, first we need to add thread count equal to, let's make it as 2. And also how we can make them parallel, I can simply say parallel. And because here I'm trying to run methods as parallel, test methods. So I can say parallel equal to methods. So instead of test, I'm just say methods, because I have multiple methods in this, my test one and my test two. Okay, so this is my test one, my test two. So I'm just running through parallel execution. So now see the problem. When you do parallel testing execution, then what happens? So my test one, my test two will execute parallelly. So the same driver instance will be shared between my test one and my test two. So then the problem comes here. So when I execute this, so both will execute parallelly. So we can just look at the result here. So both browsers are launched. Now you can just look at here. This browser is still not closed. Also, if you look at the result, you're getting both the same titles because the title is different for the second test, right? So now let me execute one more time. So this time it is launched first browser, second browser, and everything is fine. Now you can see second time he got the correct result. First title, second page title. And one more time execute again. So when execute third time again, see this time also we got the right results. And if you run this multiple times, guys, so what will happen is you won't get the stable results most of the times. Okay, most of the times you won't get the stable results. So let me run one more time. See my browser. Now you can see Bing is got launched and this is still not executed. So this page is still alive. It's not closed. Okay, so this is a unstable issues are there. So when you run the same test method parallel, because both are sharing the same driver instance here, so the parallel execution is unstable. So now we need to apply a concept of thread safety. What is the concept of thread safety? Means one thread is running or which is using some driver instance, another thread should not disturb the running thread. That's called thread safety concept. So let us see how we can achieve this. So to achieve this, we have a special class called local ThreadLocal class. Okay, so by using ThreadLocal, so we can achieve the concept. So what we will do is same XML file, let it be there. So I will try to change the driver test one, or let it be there. So I will just create another copy of driver test one. Let's make driver test two. So when I execute them serially, we don't have any problem. But when I execute them parallelly, so then we will see instability issues in parallel execution. So now what we will do is we will apply a concept of thread safety. So for that, we have to use a special class called ThreadLocal. We have a class called ThreadLocal, and we'll create a driver, local driver. So T driver equal to new local. Okay, so when you create this class, this is the class we will create. Make it as private, also a static, because same thread local we are trying to access from memory test. So this is the common object for all the tests. So make it as a static. Now, what type of threads we are storing into this. So basically we want to make driver as a thread safety, right? Because when I accessing both the methods, same driver instance, then we have to apply thread safety on this particular WebDriver instance. So this thread local should have WebDriver type. So whatever type of objects we are going to maintain thread safety, that we will assign to the thread local. Okay, and here we can just leave empty, or you can simply put Angular packets. So this is the declaration of thread local object. Okay, so how exactly this will work? How exactly the thread safety concept work? So let me show you the process how exactly the thread safety works. So here we already created a thread local, which is called T driver. So T driver is representing what? Thread local thread driver, or it is a thread. So whatever driver we have just created, so we will assign the driver to this T driver. So whatever driver we actually created, so the driver instance which we actually created, so that we need to assign to the T driver instance. So then what will happen? Suppose I say test 1 and test 2. I have two tests are running parallelly, right? So the test 1, so whatever driver we assign to the T driver, so this we can do by using set method. We have a method called set. Now from this T driver, we are going to access the driver using another method called get method. Okay, so whatever the driver we already created here, that we need to assign to the T driver, which is thread local object. From that, we are getting the one local driver to the test one. Now, whatever the driver we created here as a class variable or global, that becomes a local driver of test one. And another way, suppose test 2 is running parallelly. Now from the same D driver, we will get another local driver using same get method. So now the single driver instance, we are splitting into two. So this tree driver, local driver, thread local is basically making this driver local to this particular thread. Thread in the sense, again, T1 will use one thread, T2 will use another thread. So to assign the driver to the T driver, we use a set method. And to get the driver from the T driver, we use something called get method. Similarly, you can create any number of tests and that can access the local driver instance from the T driver. So even if you run them parallelly, there is no impact on the actual driver. So then your parallel test will become stable. Let's implement this concept. So this is the main crucial point. So the driver we need to set into the T driver. From the tree driver, we will actually get the driver instances in every test method. Okay, now let me just try to do some changes. So here I have done thread local. WebDriver is also created. So two things we need to do. So we need to assign this driver to the local thread. From the local thread, we will get the driver later. So for that, I'm creating two different methods for setting and getting. So public, I say void set driver. And what this method will do, actually this method, we need to pass actual driver instance. Actual driver instance, a WebDriver instance, okay? So when you pass actual driver instance to this method will assign this driver to the T driver. So how we can assign? Simply can say T driver dot, using set method we can assign. So driver. So what this method will do, this method will take the driver instance as a parameter that will set to the actual thread local object. And similarly, if you want to get the driver, we'll create another method. I say public void get driver, and this will return the actual driver. So I can say return, from where it will return the actual driver, from the T driver itself. So T driver dot get. So this is how we need to create a setter and getter method. So this will return the actual driver instance. So return T driver dot get. So what? Yeah, the return type should be WebDriver. Instead of void, the return type should be WebDriver. Okay. So we need to create two methods like this. So what we have done exactly here, we are just assigning the driver to the T driver instance. And by using set method, in another method, we are returning the driver from the T driver using get method. So now come to the actual test. So in the actual test, what we will do here is we already created the driver instance. So before using this driver in every place, instead of using this driver directly, we will get this driver from the T driver. So first we need to call set driver method, set a driver. Inside this, we need to pass a driver. So this is my first step we need to do. So what this method will do, this method will pass the driver instance here and assign to the T driver. After that, we need to get the driver. So this get driver method we have to call. I say get driver, and this will actually return our own driver. So this we can store into some other variable or some other WebDriver object we can create, or you can directly use this instead of driver. Just replace this wherever you are using actual driver. That's it. Okay, so here you don't need to call again. So wherever you need a driver, you can just call get driver. So after repeating get driver, that is enough. So this is how we need to do this. Okay, so now let us replace the test2 also. Same way we need to do the test2. So here we already created edge driver. So now we need to set this driver to the T driver. So we can say set driver method. I can pass this driver. So now this time this driver is set to the actual driver. So now again same process. Get the driver we have to call to get the actual driver from the T driver. So wherever you are using driver instance, so you can just replace this with the get driver. That's it. Okay, and additionally, so once you have used the driver instances from the T driver, once your tests are completed, you have to remove this, all the threads. So how we can remove, I'll create one more additional method here, void tear down, and I'll execute this after the class or after the test. So I can say after class annotation, I'm using from test.ng, import this. So here I'll remove the T driver instance, T driver dot remove. That's it. So this is how we need to do changes. So thread safety we can apply using ThreadLocal class. And two important points here. So whatever driver we created here, so the driver we need to assign to the T driver using set method. And if you want to get the driver, local driver from the thread, so we can do T driver dot get. So the same concept I already told you before. So same concept we are applying here. So actual driver we have. So instead of using this driver parallelly, so there will be problem. So we are assigning this driver to T driver using set method. And from the T driver, we are getting the local drivers using get methods. And this is how we can use multiple tests or multiple methods we can run parallel. So let me run this through XML file parallelly, and this time we will see whether are we getting the right results or not, the tests are stable or not. So once it is done, so save it and then go back to the same XML file, testengine.xml file. So instead of driver test1, I'm just running driver test2. There we have done modifications. So now this time I'm running them parallelly and see, we will see whether we are getting unstability issues or not. Same driver test2, I'm going to run here. So this will go very fast because we haven't written small piece of code. So we can see parallel execution is happening. Now we can see the Bing and Google. So we got two titles from the two different pages, perfectly working. Again, one more time execute. Perfectly fine. So let me execute one more time. I have just interrupted the page. See, you're getting Google and Bing, perfectly fine. So one more time I'm executing. Yes, perfect. So Google and Bing. So you can just look at here in the parallel execution also, the results are more stable. So how we can make them as stable? By making thread safety concept, by applying thread safety concept using ThreadLocal class. Okay. So now we can run multiple methods parallel, multiple classes parallel, or multiple tests parallel by using this particular concept. Especially this will be very, very useful when you do parallel testing, because there are multiple browsers or multiple processes or multiple threads will try to access the same instance of WebDriver, or not only WebDriver, any other object also parallelly trying to access the same object from multiple threads. So definitely the instability problem you can just notice. So to overcome this problem, we can apply thread safety concept in Selenium test engine. Okay. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.